Good morning and welcome to Connecting America on the USA Today streaming channels, TGIF. I'm Jim Rosenfield alongside Dave Briggs here at the Sunrise Diner in Roselle Park, New Jersey. Look who's at home this morning. Alisyn Camerota back joining us from her global home quarters, as you like to call it, right, Alisyn?
Indeed, this is my global home quarters. You guys just missed the rush here. I know that it's not hopping yet at the Sunrise Diner, but here in my kitchen it was. My in-laws are visiting, and they just came in and had some toast, some coffee, and then fled before we went live. But I predict they'll be making a cameo again.
They don't want to be on TV.
Early risers. I'm surprised.
Yeah.
Did they make you breakfast?
Not yet. We're not at that, but we're all having coffee. And so, which is awesome to be at my global home quarters having coffee. And so, yeah, I mean, Dave, you haven't seen this yet, but during rehearsals, I do take requests for whatever you guys want me to make for breakfast.
Oh, we're pretending Alisyn cooks now. I'm in on the gag.
Okay, this is hilarious. I don't know where the reputation that
I know you,
cook.
my friend, and I've known you for 20 years.
Honey, I can make it.
You can make the toaster work.
I can make the toast, right? As evidenced by the crumbs here.
So, you know what? This is one of those work days that's really not a work day for a lot of people. They're thinking about the Labor Day weekend, kind of how we turn this 3-day weekend into a 4-day weekend for a lot of people. The TSA, by the way, is projecting more than 17 million people are going to travel this Labor Day holiday weekend from yesterday until next Wednesday, stretching it out for the Labor Day holiday.
You know, every time we think the travel is going to cool off from the post-COVID bounce, it just doesn't. We continue to travel at record numbers holiday after holiday. You know what most importantly this is, though?
Oh,
this is my last day of work ever of any form. Because I'm going to be a billionaire, Alisyn.
This is my new car
tonight.
Wait, hold on. This is the Powerball?
Yeah, and so as much as I enjoyed working with you all these years, this is it.
It's been great.
Our first and last day together on
Dave, it's been great.
$1 billion right here.
And a yacht on the way.
Jim gets a car. Alisyn, what would you like?
Well, or I mean, are you giving away a yacht? Is that an option?
No, that was not an option. No,
I'm
buying a yacht.
The yacht is his.
I mean, I would say that you can just buy me like dinner and drinks, but you already do that. So I don't know what would change, really, Dave.
Okay. You think about it. You've got 2 hours.
Okay, good. I'll think about it. Good. That's exciting. That I got to go out and buy a ticket.
Yeah, me too.
You guys won't. You'll just hop on my coattails.
Yeah, but he's buying gifts, but he's not sharing in the cash if he wins.
No,
that's
fair. You can come on the yacht.
Okay.
You can come on the yacht.
That's fair. Yeah, I think.
But are you guys getting away this weekend? Are you guys traveling?
We are. We're going up to your neck of the woods, Connecticut, a little north of you guys.
So you're driving or are you training?
Training.
Okay. Alisyn, getting away?
No, I'm staying put, but not because I hate traffic or anything. Though 17 million people does sound like a lot. It's hard for me to contextualize that. I mean, is this like record setting? Because obviously 4th of July, Memorial Day, Labor Day, these are always huge, and Thanksgiving, always huge travel days.
I never found this to be a particularly big travel day in terms of flying. I'm always surprised to hear the TSA numbers. Yeah. This seems like a driving weekend. I've never known anyone to really fly on this weekend.
Short road trips.
Yeah.
A lot of people taking the rails too.
Yeah, absolutely. Many are taking the rails because Amtrak's high-speed next-gen Acela train up and running yesterday, just in time for the holiday weekend. USA Today reporter Zach Victor took the first train. That's from Boston all the way to D.C., and there was his post on X. He will join us in the next hour with his review of the ride. I believe the fastest train in the country, and one of the most luxurious as well. Looks like the ultimate way to commute up and down our coast.
A definite upgrade in terms of what those trains look like inside. Yeah.
Guys, it is so long overdue for the Northeast Corridor. I mean, this basically ushers us into the 20th century, not even the 21st century. The high-speed travel. Do you know that you can go from Paris to London? I just learned this in 2.5 hours. Okay. And it's the same distance basically as like Boston to DC, but they have to cross an ocean. Their train, and they can still do that.
Rails wired, they really do, and we're a little behind the 8 ball. The other thing is the tracks here in the Northeast Corridor. Those new trains can go up to 160, but
I think it was 150 before.
Yeah,
correct.
And because of the condition of the tracks, they have to slow it down. So there's not a big difference in arrival time. The big difference is the feel and the luxury inside those cars at this point.
We are not a train population, though, as opposed to Europe. And that will have to change if this is going to succeed.
One of our producers hit the road for this holiday, Seth, making his way from Dallas to Omaha. He looks very serious on the road. Keep your eyes on the road, Seth. He's on, what, I-35 somewhere in Kansas as we speak. Doesn't look like he's got a lot of company with him.
Getting a glimpse at the traffic and not his face? Isn't the idea of a traffic cam to show the traffic?
Seth clearly wants his FaceTime here on Connecting America.
The selfie cam is really entertaining. Thank you so much.
I also feel like Seth might
be
be being held. Do you guys think he's being held at gunpoint? He didn't look happy about that drive. So I think we need Seth to explain where he's going and why at this hour.
That reminds me of my daughter just went to one of the biggest concerts she's ever been to, and she was so eager to show me the video, and they were all of her singing. And I said, with all due respect,
you don't have the voice for that.
I just would like to see the actual performer, Seth. That's the traffic, not you.
You know, one of the reasons he's probably having a good time is because gas is cheaper than it's been in a while. The national average yesterday was $3.21. Here in Jersey, it's lower. It's just over $3.05 for Seth. In Kansas, we checked, $2.87 a gallon there.
Nationally, it's down 16 cents over the last year. 16 cents a gallon. That is a considerable win for the American pocketbook.
So we've been talking a lot about this. Given your choice this Labor Day, would you rather travel by plane, train, automobile, or like Alisyn, just stay put, stay at home?
Well, hold on. I didn't know these were my options. I like train. I really do like traveling by train. I find it relaxing. I find it scenic often. And I don't know, there's something a little kind of exciting or glamorous about train travel. And I see that people are already agreeing with me. And you can just, if you're at home, you can scan that QR code that you see on your screen right now and send us your opinion of which way you would travel or which way you are traveling this weekend. I think the train is great. And I think that the high-speed train, I mean, it's a little nerve-wracking here in the Northeast because I hope they have the infrastructure to support it, but I'm willing to try.
All right, Alisyn, here comes some of those diner puns you love so much. We check out the menu, some of the stories on our plate this morning, and this is a serious one. 20 years ago, Alisyn, this week that Hurricane Katrina brought so much devastation to New Orleans. And 20 years later, we're going to be looking back at what happened, and just as importantly, could this happen again? Including, we're going to hear the amazing story of a pediatric cancer doctor who risked everything. There she is because she did not want to leave her patients behind at a hospital there in New Orleans. So we'll be talking to her. Just an amazing story. Also, we'll be hearing from the mother of one of her patients 20 years later.
Well, you say, could this happen again? New Orleans, billions and billions. I think 130 billion has been spent there, but it's still sinking. It's still sinking like further and further.
Inches per year.
Right. And here, could it happen again? Absolutely. Unfortunately, they've done a lot to fortify the city, but meanwhile, it's not just sinking, it's shrinking as well. Down 23% the population since 2000. That's the fastest shrinking major city in the United States. Not good circumstances.
I mean, who could blame people for not wanting to buy property in New Orleans, given, as you say, I mean, it is below sea level. It is a city that is below sea level. And so it is ripe for problems. But in terms of 20 years ago in Katrina, I mean, my most sort of vivid, indelible image are the journalists who were there. I mean, I was at Fox at the time, and I remember Shepard Smith being in New Orleans and trying to get the Bush administration's attention and trying to get America's attention and saying, look at what's happening here. People are dying here. And I know Anderson Cooper was there as well. And that was a real moment where journalists had to sound the alarm for that emergency.
Yeah. And, 20 years later, there are concerns about things like frequency of inspection of those levees now and some federal cuts in funding into the Army Corps. So, are they maintaining what they put in place to try to prevent this from happening again? That's a big concern as well.
We'll talk about that. Also, the latest from Minneapolis on the deadly school shooting at Annunciation Catholic School. Officials detail horrific writings of the shooter. Minnesota's U.S. attorney said the evidence includes hundreds of pages of writings in which the shooter, 23-year-old Robin Westman, expresses his, quote, hate towards almost every group imaginable. He added the attacker was obsessed with the idea of killing children and saw the attack as a way to target our most vulnerable among us. 2 kids, 8 and 10, were killed. We have identified them, and more than a dozen were injured at the shooting on Wednesday.
Yeah, and I know we heard from the father of the young boy who was killed last night. So emotional, so composed, and saying he wants people to remember him the way he was for who he was, and not remember him as connected with this tragic shooting.
He was a fisherman, a good kid. Yeah, unfortunately, we would love to say this is the last of these. Hopefully, as we talked about yesterday, something will be done, whether it's on mental health or guns or some type of red flag legislation. Let's hope it's just nothing.
Yeah.
All right, now back to the J.D. Vance interview with USA Today White House correspondent Francesca Chambers. As we mentioned, Vance says he's, quote, ready to be president.
The National Guard, how long would they stay? Well, I think fundamentally that would be up to the local government.
Yeah, he said he's ready to be president. The 200 days on the job has prepared him since inauguration. He also said that President Trump does not have an enemies list. And he defended the president's firing of Federal Reserve official Lisa Cook.
Yeah.
All right.
So I had a couple of impressions after watching this. I thought that Francesca Chambers did a wonderful job. And I think that basically he's been tasked, the vice president, with going out and selling the, big budget bill, or as President Trump calls it, the big beautiful bill, to America. And I think that that's a, tall order, because people don't necessarily know what it is. People don't necessarily know what it is. But I thought that he was a very good spokesperson. I mean, he's very smooth. He's unflappable, at least in this interview. I just thought that he's a good salesperson. It's good to task him with it. Though I do want to talk about, and maybe this is the moment, the thing that he glossed over, I think, somewhat dishonestly, which was the Epstein files. Francesca Chambers asked about that. And J.D. Vance says, quote, this entire thing happened during the Biden administration. That's not true. Jeffrey Epstein was arrested during Trump's first administration. So that's just, I don't know that that's going to work by telling people some false chronology.
Yeah, he also said that the deployment of the National Guard in D.C., that wasn't an attempt at distraction from Epstein.
But it has worked, hasn't it? The distraction has worked. The issue has been largely swept under the rug, Alisyn, and even those MAGA media influencers, you're not hearing them talk about it. I will say, September 3rd, Ro Khanna, along with, I believe, Thomas Massie, a Republican, will bring Epstein victims to the Capitol. So while it's been quiet, while they've distracted the media, at least, it will be back as an issue next week.
Let's go back to the sound from J.D. Vance about the firing of the Federal Reserve official.
I think a much more fundamental question. Let's just say, for the sake of argument, that Lisa Cook had done absolutely nothing wrong. Isn't it a little preposterous to say that the President of the United States, the elected President of the United States, working, of course, in concert with Congress, doesn't have the ability to make these determinations?
And yes, the president can fire a Federal Reserve official, but only for cause under the Federal Reserve Act. And they're tying this, in the case of the federal chair, Governor Lisa Cook, claiming it was alleged mortgage fraud as the reason for firing her.
Let's be clear, a little context on the mortgage fraud. First off, it was prior to her time as a board of governors, but also she claimed 2 residences as her main residence. Donald Trump has been accused of hundreds of millions of dollars in mortgage fraud, both inflating and deflating the value of his buildings to get loans and to give tax advantages. You call about the pot calling the kettle black. This is extraordinary, and it's dangerous, say most economists, that the president would do away with the independence of the Fed. There is a hearing today on Lisa Cook. That's a Biden-appointed judge. My presumption is they will say, no, this does not qualify, and it will go to the Supreme Court. That's just my analysis of the situation.
Which is the route we're seeing with so many of these decisions. Go ahead. Sorry, Alisyn.
Well, we'll see, because, it's supposed to be Congress that has oversight of this, independent board, not the president, because they specifically didn't want the president to be able to make this a political position. And as you know, President Trump sees most things through the lens of politics. So I think it's interesting. But I also thought that J.D. Vance made a compelling point, I guess I would say, when he said, don't we want our elected officials to be able to be in charge of something as vital as America's economy rather than an unelected, appointed official? I think I mean, we can fact check that, but I think that in terms of like the gut reaction, that makes sense to a lot of voters.
Let's talk about the guard issue, because that also came up in the interview. The vice president saying this isn't long term. He said, but it's okay to do this, and they're considering doing the same in other cities.
You're saying if we deploy the National Guard, how long would they stay? Well, I think fundamentally that would be up to the local governors, the local authorities, in concert with the President of the United States to make those determinations. I think you obviously have to make that determination based on the local crime rates, what's happening with murder, what's happening with armed robberies, what's happening with carjackings. I mean, we don't want indefinitely to put National Guardsmen on the streets of our cities. We just want to make those streets more safe. And I think once we've accomplished that goal and created, some local foundation for the local police to continue to police those streets successfully, then I think that would sort of accomplish the goal, and that's what we would need to do.
He's saying in concert with local and governors, but
don't want that.
J.B. Pritzker said we haven't heard from them. We don't want them here, so it doesn't seem.
As Wes Moore, the governor of Maryland, has said the same thing. As Gavin Newsom, the governor of California, has said the same thing. We don't want the National Guard here.
So again, it's sort of J.D. Vance kind of being the salesman for the administration and sort of massaging the messaging, Alisyn?
Yes. I mean, again, I think that he's a very smooth salesman. When he says it, I think it sounds credible and believable. This is why it's important for journalists to fact check it then, because he also said, we don't want to go in where we're not wanted. I believe that's a direct quote. Well, they sort of are doing that because, as you point out, there are some governors who've been like, no, thank you. So, yeah, some have been more vocal, I would say, than others about that. But yes, and I think that also, as we've talked about, all three of us in the past, what was the upshot? What did it do? Well, let's see. I mean, a week isn't a long enough trial period, but some crime leveled out, some crime went up during the time the National Guard was there.
My whole point here is, even if you're there 6 months, Alisyn, and crime will certainly tick down because there's National Guard over the city, at some point you have to leave. And if you're not going to give additional police resources to these cities, what is the point of a short-term reprieve in crime? Because it will return. I've never understood the long-term plan here,
What's
Jim.
the long
Because
game?
they're going to leave.
I've been asking that as well. Okay, after 30 days, or if it's longer than 30 days, what are they putting in place to continue the effort to reduce crime?
Yeah, that's a good point. And he glossed over that, because when Francesca Chambers asked him that, he said, well, we're setting up the local law enforcement in order to be able to do their job better. I don't know that that's a real answer. I mean, we would have to hear from police chiefs.
Yeah, and there are people out there. I mean, I talked to a friend in Chicago who said, bring them. We need to do something. I don't feel safe walking in downtown Chicago at night. Lives in downtown Chicago. Prominent business person I spoke with who was okay with having the Guard come in for a little while.
I spent a lot of time in Chicago, and they do need something. They certainly do need help. I got to mention one other thing J.D. Vance talked about. He actually brought back conspiracy theories about the NFL because he fears the Taylor Swift, Travis Kelce engagement, Alisyn, will cause the NFL to favor the Chiefs and do anything they can to get them into the Super Bowl again around the Kelce Swift TNT wedding, which just seemed a little bit laughable. But
Dave, what can the NFL do? Like, I thought that you just play football. Like, what can the NFL do to favor the Chiefs win?
There has long been conspiracy theories that the refs are helping protect Patrick Mahomes, and a decent case could be made for that.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Well, I'm in favor of it. If they're actually doing something to tilt the scales, we're a Kansas City Chiefs family here, so I'm in favor of whatever they're doing to put their finger on the scale. Yeah.
Very good. All right, we'll be right back with the all-important Labor Day weekend forecast after the break.
Welcome back to the Friday edition of Connecting America. Our political contributor, Jim McQueenie, joining us here at the table. Alisyn joining us from home this morning. Big Labor Day weekend. Big plans, Jim?
No plans.
Keeping it quiet?
I have to stay here because my grandson was the runner-up for the Little League Championship in New Jersey. They lost the last game, and they're being given awards at the Sussex Miners baseball minor league game. They're going to award around second base. So we had to stay here and get that. That's okay. He almost got there to the Little League World Series.
That's worth staying for.
It's worth staying for.
Congratulations.
Chinese Taipei, I believe,
they won.
Blew out Las Vegas
Yeah.
in that final. We'll talk politics with Jim in just a minute. First, let's find out if the weather will cooperate for this long weekend. And AccuWeather meteorologist Alex De Silva joins us with more. Alex, what can we expect?
So it's a kind of like a seesaw pattern that we're seeing across the United States here. Big jet stream coming north and then diving to the south across the east. A lot of warm air across the west, and then across the central plains and southern plains, we're going to have to watch out for some showers and some thunderstorms, some monsoonal showers and thunderstorms back towards New Mexico. But gorgeous weather across the Midwest and Northeast. So if you're a football fan, I have great news for you. If you're going to the Texas-Ohio State game, probably the biggest game of the weekend, it is 10 out of 10. Perfect weather for this game. You really couldn't ask for better for this game. Unfortunately, not everyone will be so lucky. We're concerned about areas in the southeastern portion of the country for showers and some thunderstorms, and that can affect the Alabama-Florida State game, another very big game going on in Tallahassee. We're going to be dodging a few showers and thunderstorms, I think, during the day tomorrow. So it's going to be important if anyone's out there tailgating and going to the game to keep a close eye to the sky because there could be a couple of pop-up showers and thunderstorms. And then for the big day, Labor Day itself, again, very warm across the western portions of the country, and then just picture perfect weather, Midwest to Northeast. And then, of course, we'll still be dodging a few of those showers across portions of the Southeast.
Touch of fall feeling, Alex, in the Great Lakes area?
It certainly is. I mean, we finally get a break from all this heat and humidity that we've been dealing with over the summertime. It's going to feel like potentially even October in some areas, so just that picture perfect fall weather and picture perfect tailgating and football weather. So I think a lot of people are going to welcome this very comfortable air mass that's in place for this weekend.
That's awesome. You don't want to disrupt anybody's holiday plans. Right, Alisyn?
Yes, but yes, except that, it is picture perfect here. I don't know if you can already see what's happening outside, but it's a beautiful, but a little crisp, a little bit autumnal. And so there's a melancholy feeling, as we all know, around Labor Day because summer can be so glorious and it is back to school and back to reality. So we're already definitely feeling that in the Northeast, even though it is beautiful.
Some of yours are already back to school, we know.
Yes, absolutely. So I've done college drop-off this past week, and that has had its own ups and downs. But yeah, their kids are going back to school. And so Alex, it's autumnal here in the Northeast. What's the biggest trouble zone that people need to look out for today across the country?
I think it's going to be portions of the southeastern United States. It's going to be an overall pretty wet pattern. If we take it day by day here's Saturday. We have an area of low pressure that's going to be forming in the northeastern Gulf and then moving across the peninsula of Florida here. So Saturday, we could see showers and thunderstorms across this area. I mentioned if you're going to be going to that Florida State game, keep a close eye out for showers and storms. But then even Sunday, same thing. That area of low pressure continues to move across the peninsula of Florida there. And so we're going to still see those showers and thunderstorms. Breezy at the coast as well. So I think the trouble spot this weekend and even into Monday is going to be the southeast. It could be a soaker for many people across the southeast.
All right, Alex De Silva, thanks so much. Which brings us to our question of the day around this Labor Day holiday. What's your choice? Would you rather travel by train, plane, automobile, or stay put at home right now? Train is the winner here. A lot of people want to travel by rail, Dave.
It's a nice way to travel. It's certainly Alisyn's favorite. Get out your smartphone and scan that and join us. And let's ask political analyst Jim McQueenie how he would like to travel before we talk politics. If you were to travel, train,
This is New Jersey.
Skies?
It's car. It's
Get
just
in
like
the car.
California, right?
Isn't this the worst place to drive in the country?
And by the way, Jim, on the gas, I left Mahwah, New Jersey today. The gas was $2.79 a gallon.
Wow.
Yeah.
Well under $3 a gallon.
Well under, yep,
When was the
$2.79.
last time you saw that?
10 years ago.
Yeah, and for those of you in the rest of the country, if you don't know, you don't pump your own gas here in New Jersey.
You do
It
not.
drives me
Just
crazy.
Does it?
another wonderful thing about New Jersey, Dave, that is
She
so
likes it.
fantastic.
I
love it.
absolutely hate
Why?
it.
Why? Just
One,
stay
you
in the
have to wait for them to come over. I'm not a patient man. I'm in a
It's not a
hurry. I
long
got
wait.
places to go. And
It's not
two,
a
I
long
feel like, what? It's tipping culture? Do I have to tip this guy to
No,
pump gas?
no, you
No.
don't have to tip. You don't have to pay extra. It's free. It's free. Just take the gift. Don't look a gift horse in the mouth. Just enjoy
I'm
it.
sorry. This is one of the worst.
A funny thing about
Things
that,
about New Jersey.
I live up in Mahwah where I got the gas this morning, right?
Yeah.
And that's on the New York state line. And in New York, you have to pump your own gas, of course,
Absolutely.
right?
Yeah.
You get these people coming in to the New Jersey gas station and they start pumping the gas, and the attendants come up to them and go, "Stop! Don't pump the gas!" And they just put up their hands sometimes, like they think they're being robbed.
Oh no.
It's the Jersey way, whether Dave likes it or not.
Usually they don't work until they come over and scan a card. So usually you cannot. All right, let's talk a little politics though, because that's kind of what marks this shift. Although we're always politics right now. I mean, in the Trump administration, things are always politics. We just talked about the J.D. Vance interview. And to me, this is all about the succession plan. Who carries the MAGA throne after Trump is gone? If he's gone, is it J.D. Vance at this point?
Look, it's about two dates. It's about 26 and 28. It's about the midterms in 26, and it's about Vance, who has to replace, Trump can't run. He's term limited again, right? Unless there's another move that's going to shock us. But nonetheless, for the moment, he's
Dave
not
looks
there.
skeptical.
I'm very skeptical
Right.
about 28.
Yeah.
Go
But
ahead.
so on the 26th, for firmer control with the Republicans control both the House and the Senate, of course, right? And this is going to be the team play right now between Trump and him. You're going to see them really cooperate on this 26 effort right now. But one of the problems is really the National Guard deployment issue, right? Because this, yes, it's political, right? And by the way, Democrats have done this thing at local levels. Hochul, the governor of New York, brought in the National Guard to police the subway, right? When there's a heinous crime somewhere, even a mayor in a town or a big city, stuff like that, they flood the area with police and stuff. Yes, it's police. Sometimes it's elevated to the National Guard. But what you're facing is on this thing, I don't understand the hypocrisy, right? They picked Washington to do it. Los Angeles, they're meddling with it. And then talking about New York and Chicago, right? But why aren't they talking about where gun violence is the highest? It's in the top 10 states are all Trump states.
Louisiana, I
red
believe.
state.
is high on
Louisiana
that
leads
list,
the
a
country,
red
right?
state.
And by the
Yeah.
way, that violence is a
point.
case where, look, were they shooting alligators and missed and hit a human? It's a problem. It's a problem there. So why aren't the delegation of National Guardsmen, if you're going to use this principle and defend this principle, realize the hypocrisy in this,
But
right?
you're asking this rhetorically, right? Because we know why they're not shining a light on those other
Yeah,
cities.
of course.
Right.
Yeah, of course. But anyway, on the 28th thing, you're seeing Vance here. I think what Alisyn said before was really spot on. He's a very appealing candidate in terms of presentation purposes. He doesn't look like a nut. He's got a calm presence, and he's reasonable. And by the way, his experience in the Senate that could make him a president is about the same amount of experience that Obama had as a senator, right?
What about his attempt to sort of rebrand the big, beautiful bill as the working families tax cut? Is that going to fly?
It'll fly if the economy rises collectively. We had 3.5% economic growth in the last quarter, half a point over, and that's a significant thing than the 3% they were forecasting, right? But the biggest thing is if you're going to try make MAGA acceptable, brand this as a tax cut for the middle class, stuff like you're going to be running in a tar pit to do that, really, because people are going to look at the big issue, right? The big issue. The big issue is the overall economy here. And, you don't know yet, even for this year, with there's two races for governor in New Jersey and Virginia, whether that's going to help the Republicans in both of these elections, right? Because look at these numbers, right? It's auguring pretty well for him. The tariff stuff, not really hitting right now. In fact, they say it might even be helping a little bit. So
Yeah.
you
Markets
don't
are at
really
all-time
know.
highs, and GDP looks awfully healthy as well. Alisyn, you were saying?
Well, I mean, I just remember when Republicans used to not like a big add to the deficit. I'm old enough to remember when a $4 trillion addition to the debt and deficit was a no-go for them. And so I remember at Fox one of the things that, the commentators used to say was, we're running up the credit card bill for our kids and for our grandkids. They will have to pay the bill. At some point, this will come due. I don't hear them saying that now, but the big budget bill adds $4 trillion over, 10 years by all economists' estimates.
Yeah. I mean, who knew that the Republicans, small government advocates, are now the big government defenders?
Look, I think deficit concerns are gone as a political issue on both sides of the aisle. Can we agree on that?
Yeah,
Seems like it.
It's at the astral plane of incomprehensibility for most people, honestly, right?
Mm-hmm.
The middle class and all that. Honest to God, it's just.
All right, Jim McQueenie, thanks for weighing in. Thanks for being here at the table this morning. We hope you have a great holiday weekend, and congratulations again to your grandson. Yep. That's wonderful. Coming up next, an amazing story, really, of a pediatric cancer doctor who refused to leave her patients when Hurricane Katrina came crashing down on New Orleans 20 years ago. We'll be right back.
You guys really can't.
Welcome back to Connecting America on this Friday. Dave, this week marks 20 years since Hurricane Katrina devastated New Orleans' lower Ninth Ward.
Yeah, it was one of the worst urban disasters in U.S. history. Parts of the city are still rebuilding and still trying to recover. As you remember, thousands of homes destroyed, 15,000 residents, mostly African-American, displaced. Many never returned in community. It's really still trying to bring new businesses and homeowners back. But as I mentioned earlier in the show, this city has shrunk 23% since 2000. People are largely leaving the area. And I don't know what's going to reverse that trend, unfortunately, for New Orleans.
You know, and as we hit the 20-year mark, this is a triggering week for so many who lived through that devastation. And we're going to be joined with an amazing story. One of those people, one of the heroes of Katrina really is a doctor who is a pediatric oncologist there. Her name is Tammy Singleton. She was the only pediatric cancer doctor at Children's Hospital of New Orleans who did not evacuate. The rest of her team, if you will, they left the city. She stayed behind. She was 7 months pregnant at the time. But she said, I just can't leave my patients, because they were, many of them, in the middle of chemotherapy treatments, bone marrow transplants. And, you know, she thought, if I leave, what's going to happen to them? So she went through a remarkable period with them, including evacuating them to other hospitals and also making sure that their records followed them. Because when you think about it, how were new hospitals going to know where these patients were in their treatment cycle? So Dr. Tammy is joining us to share parts of this remarkable experience. Also with her is the mother of one of her patients, Vicky Bergeron, and his surviving twin brother, Logan. Thank you all so much for joining us from New Orleans this morning. We really appreciate it. Doctor, let's start with you. We mentioned this, while others on your team evacuated, you stayed behind while you were 7 months pregnant. Very stressful time. Can you share with us why you decided to stay?
Absolutely. Good morning. When I think back on it, it wasn't a second thought. It was something I absolutely had to do. There were other doctors who were there. There were surgeons, ICU doctors, but there was no one there who knew how to care for pediatric patients with cancer, who knew how to care for our transplant patients, who knew how to care for our leukemia, lymphoma patients, and all the complications they were going through at the time. Again, it wasn't a question. It was a very difficult, stressful decision to make for us, for my husband. But there was no thought. My husband at the time was Navy. He just looked at me and said, "Hey, I understand that this is duty, but this is the hardest thing I've ever had to do."
We're looking at pictures, the helicopter there, transferring some of the patients who were in your care. How many young cancer patients were you caring for, essentially by yourself as the only oncologist there?
Yeah, at that time, I think we may have had around 20 patients on the census. We tried to evacuate or discharge all of the patients who were not necessarily as sick or who did not really need to be there at the time.
Go ahead, Dave.
No, I was just going to ask Vicky what this means, what Dr. Tammy's staying means to her, or meant then and means now.
Dr. Singleton was our lifeline. I don't know how we would have managed without having her there by our side. When you're in the hospital for as long as we were, there are times when we were there for months at a time, you become family. Mm-hmm. And the nurses and the doctors, we just all stuck together as family. And she was just amazing. And I can tell you a story about Kyle, my son.
Who was 16 at the time, right, Vicky?
16, fighting acute myeloid leukemia. He was scheduled to be discharged on the 29th, the day Katrina hit. And he was in isolation. And we were in our room that was right by the nurse's station, and we overheard Tammy on the phone just distressed and distraught because she was scrambling to it sounded like she was trying to get some medical procedures done before we left so that her patients wouldn't be just hanging. And Kyle overheard her voice and how, upset she was. And he said, and he never left his room until then. And he said, "Mom, I need my mask." It's his HEPA filter mask. He said, "I need to go out of the room." So I got his mask, we put it on, and he walked outside and he just wrapped his arms around her and said, and they both just started crying. And he said how much he loved her and everything's going to be okay. We're going to get through this. And they just embraced. And it was just the most heartfelt moment to see him, wanting to support her. And that's just the way it was. We love our doctor. And I mean, she was our rock, and he felt like he needed to be there for her as well.
Logan, I know this was your identical twin brother, Kyle. You went through this treatment with him. You were a donor, as I understand it, right?
Yes, I was a perfect match for him, being his identical twin brother. So it was one of those situations where it was a tough situation because we were really thinking about a hurricane coming around the corner. But it was just one of those situations where I just had to be there for my family, be there for my brother, just focus on what I can do to support my family. My dad wasn't there. He took the dog to Mississippi, so just having to grow up quicker than I should have and just be there to support there, and just having the doctors, the nurses, everybody that stayed behind, Dr. Singleton included, it just made things a lot easier just to cope with and just move through that tragic situation.
How much credit do you give to Dr. Singleton sitting right next to you for helping your brother to survive another year with his disease?
It's all the world. Just having that support, having somebody to fight for the patients, because a lot of times it's especially when tragedy, things get forgotten about or people get left behind. Just to have that support for people to get where they need to go to be healthy, to be taken care of, just means the world to us, my family. Tragically, we lost my brother a few years later, but to have those years with him, those extended years, especially when he was in a vulnerable spot post transplant, it means the world.
Tammy, I know you were 7 months pregnant at the time. I know you lost your baby girl about a month after this when Katrina hit. She was a stillbirth. You feel the stress of that situation may have been responsible for that?
There was no other explanation. I continued to work pretty much every day for the 4 weeks following. It was very difficult for my colleagues to get back into the Baton Rouge area to help because there was no housing available. And I mean, everything was fine. She was moving and everything seemed fine. And I literally left the hospital that day after working that day and went straight to Women's Hospital in Baton Rouge, and she was gone. So I'm not the only, obviously, tragedy. This isn't the only tragedy from Katrina. There's so many other stories of lives that were significantly impacted, and I definitely count Megan in that number.
Well, we want to thank you so much for joining us, all three of you. We know you went through a lot, and I know, Vicki, you told me last night it always feels like just yesterday to us, even though 20 years has gone by. Also want to mention, Tammy, the Hero Project Network out of New Orleans, which is preserving stories of heroism like yours through storytelling. So kudos to them for bringing your story to us and bringing it to light. Thank you so much. And Alisyn is here too. We just appreciate you getting up early there in New Orleans to join us here on Connecting America. Just so much that they went through. That's one family's story of what happened when Katrina hit.
Yeah, the spirit of New Orleans remains alive, Alisyn.
I mean, guys, that I can't imagine a story that better highlights the human devastation of Katrina. I mean, she's a hero. Obviously, Dr. Tammy is a hero, and the toll that it took on her and her child and her family that she waited there. I mean, I remember being 7 months pregnant. It is not easy to be in an emergency and run around and have to be on your feet all day for days like she was, and not evacuate, and the stress of all of that. And that she, I mean, that Vicky's family credits Dr. Tammy with keeping her son alive for another year. That is just remarkable. And as you say, Jim, that's just one story. I mean, there were thousands of those during Katrina, and just the toll that an emergency like that takes on everyone.
Yeah, we thank them so much for taking the time to share with us what they went through. It's just remarkable. All right.
All right, up next, let's talk a little sports. A huge weekend for college football. And yes, you guessed it, Taylor Swift also getting in on the action. We'll explain next.
Welcome back to Connecting America from the Sunrise Diner here in Roselle Park, New Jersey. Big weekend. You're going to be spending a little bit of time on the couch in your man cave.
A lot of time watching college football, in particular tonight when action gets underway. But let's talk a little Taylor Swift sighting. Not just professional football. She was spotted at Arrowhead Stadium, not to watch the Chiefs. Rather, she and Travis Kelce were at a college football game watching a week one matchup between Cincinnati and Nebraska. Nebraska won that game at the home of the Chiefs. And as we mentioned, a huge weekend for college football. It kicks off tonight. Colorado and Georgia Tech facing off in their 2025 season opener. Colorado actually a slight underdog. Shocker despite a 9-win season. Now they lost the Heisman Trophy winner and the head coach, Coach Prime's son, the quarterback. So a lot of departures. No real favorites here, guys. No favorites.
Not at all.
Here, I am a Colorado Buffalo, so that's going to be an exciting one, 8 o'clock Eastern Time in Boulder.
What'd you bring with you?
I brought my sweatshirt along just in case.
Is this from college days or?
Oh no, this is brand spanking new, man.
Swag.
I always have new Colorado stuff coming. 8:00 Eastern Time. Go Buffs.
Okay, but Dave, I feel like you also kind of buried the lead. Where's the picture of Taylor Swift at the game? I don't want to just see a tweet. I mean, I'd like to see her at the game. Do you have that?
We're working on that.
We'll effort that for you, my friend.
Thank you. And America and all of America.
Yes.
The weekend highlight, though, is the biggest game potentially of the year in week one. Number 1, Texas travels to number 2, Ohio State. And this is the most expensive week one game in the history of college football. The average ticket, Jim, $500. We've never seen anything like this to kick off the college football season. The cheapest seat available is north of $300. That's because Arch Manning, Peyton Manning, the whole Manning family, right? That's the Arch. And he is probably the biggest quarterback prospect ever in the history of college football. Texas never been preseason number 1.
A lot of top contenders, as I understand it, are sorting out their quarterback situations.
Oh, just like the NFL. Yeah, it's the most important position on the field. Also, you have number 6 Clemson hosting number 9 LSU, number 5 Notre Dame visiting Miami. And I should mention the biggest sports story of the week is actually the Dallas Cowboys trading what might be the best defensive player in football to the Green Bay Packers. They get 2 number 1 draft picks. He gets the biggest deal in the history of non-quarterbacks. 4 years, Alisyn, $188 million. 4 years, 188 for a defensive player is staggering. And Jerry Jones, the Cowboys owner, much maligned. Cowboys fans are depressed. They are angry.
Eagles fans are not depressed.
They are rejoicing.
Yeah.
This is a really difficult day for Dallas Cowboys fans.
I mean, Dave, you say that's the biggest sports story of the week. I would venture to say it's Taylor Swift's engagement is the biggest sports story of the week.
You're putting that in the category of sports.
If we're putting that in the category of sports, then I would not fight you on that.
Absolutely.
I feel like that's the reason millions of people now watch football. So, yeah, that's what I would call a sports
story. Do know 20 million people were watching every game prior to Taylor Swift going to them.
Details.
Al, there's somebody behind you. Is somebody whipping up some breakfast for you?
I can do that. My son and my
there
nephew.
For you.
No, I don't have like a personal chef here, unfortunately, but I'm working on that. So I'm going to whip up some breakfast. It's the end of the blueberries. As you know, summer's over. So I was thinking that I'll just finish off the blueberries here in something, either some pancakes or blueberries and cottage cheese. And it's, again, a sad day when you have to put away the summer fruit, but that's what's happening today.
Can you go back to the fridge, Alisyn? Who's on your fridge?
Oh, this is Ron Swanson of Parks and Rec. We love Parks and Rec at my house so much. It's
good catch, Jim.
Yeah.
It's such wonderful, just hilarity, family viewing. And so it was a big tradition this summer here with my kids and me watching Parks and Rec at night. So Ron Swanson now just lords over our kitchen for some reason.
Not just one, but 2 pictures of him on your fridge. Love it. Yeah. All right. We've compiled a team of Diner regulars, experts in all things that matter to you and your family. And this morning, Gwen Lawrence, who trains New York's top professional athletes with her killer yoga practice, is joining us. Good morning, Gwen. Go easy on us, please.
How are you?
We're great. We're ready to do yoga along with you, right, Dave?
I'm in. I love yoga. Do it once a week. What are we going to do this morning?
All right. Well, today, actually, we're going to talk a little bit self-care. And I think that's really fitting after talking to Dr. Tammy, that wonderful hero. So I want to introduce myself to you guys a little lighter. I'm not going to make you do yoga today, but I'm going to show you how to reduce some stress, especially, I think, Alisyn just mentioned, summer's coming to a close, school's starting. It's a little more stressful than normal. So we're going to talk about a little self-care, which is self-massage. So are you willing to give it a try with me?
Absolutely.
Absolutely. Let's go.
All right. Well, I just want to tell you that doing some pressure to your muscles and your connective tissue will increase blood flow to your body, oxygen, nutrients to your body. It will speed recovery. increase your range of motion so that your day goes better. You just feel a little better. Your workout's a little bit more effective. And touch, coupled with a certain type of breathing called diaphragmatic breathing, will shut off that fight or flight response and decrease your cortisol, which is that bad, stressful hormone, and actually increase your feel good hormones, which is your serotonin and dopamine. So let's decrease your heart rate and blood pressure and give it a try, okay?
Go for it. We're ready.
All right. So we're going to take our hand, you're going to make a little hook, and you're going to bring it across your shoulder. And right away, you're going to be face to face, a really tight spot. And don't be afraid to just dig in, and you're going to hook, and you're going to pull across. You're going to hook, and you're going to pull across. And just keep feeling around for all those little spots, a little bit of a reaction, and hold it. Don't be afraid to go all the way down your arm, a little bit of compression, pressure. And I want to give you one caveat. Don't push here. Here, lives, and here you can aggravate that and cause a problem. So doing both sides, we're going to hook and pull, hook and pull.
It's like a rock field back there on my
Around.
shoulder.
Press all the way up to the base of the skull, and a lot of lives right at the base of that skull there. You might feel something right away just come all the way up, especially if you have headaches or sinuses going on. So how does that feel?
Well,
It feels
Wonderful.
it
fantastic.
feels great, but my shoulders, boy, have a lot of knots in them. I'll tell you that much.
You could feel it, right? So
Oh,
you
yeah.
have the power. Every day, put a Post-it at your desk that reminds you if you feel like your shoulders are creeping up, if you're working on your desk, that's a time to take a nice inhale, in and out through the nose only, deep down into the belly. That's your diaphragmatic breath that's going to turn off that fight or flight response, and really just go for it.
That was
Alisyn, is she
amazing.
trying it too?
I am. Oh my gosh. I love this, Gwen.
Yeah.
This is so fantastic because I do go and get a lot of massages. And I've always thought, well, it's not as good if you're just, having to massage your own shoulders. But this actually feels wonderful. It
Yeah.
kind of is as good.
Hook and pull. And I'm going to give you one more tip. So when
Yeah.
you're home and maybe you're watching your Parks and Rec at night or you're just relaxing, I want you to go for it with your feet. So if you don't have, an aversion, some people have a foot aversion, but if you don't, I want
Still on our
you to
shoulders.
understand that
Go ahead, Gwen.
traditional Chinese medicine
lose
has
her?
mapped out the entire body on the bottom of the foot. And these are reflexive points. They reflex and affect every part of your body, muscles, organs, all your systems. So if you really want to make a change, just take your foot. You really can't go wrong. But the map of the foot is, I'll give you a little idea. The big toe is your head. This is your spine, your shoulders. All your organs live in the center, and the toes are your senses. So if you're feeling like you really have a backache, you take your foot and you rub on that inner edge of the foot, pressure, rub, whatever you want. If you don't like to touch your foot, then go ahead and grab a tennis ball, a golf ball, and just rub around and apply a little pressure. So you're literally doing some acupressure for yourself.
I can't wait to try this tonight over Parks and Rec. That sounds wonderful. And I appreciate that easy map because I've always seen those maps, when you go into some reflexology or some massage, but it seems complicated. But the way you just spelled out what the foot is a map for is really helpful. I'll
feel
just be
better
massaging
already.
my shoulders now.
Yeah. All right.
That
We'll
was
be right back with
great.
more on Connecting America. Hook and
Pull, hook, pull.
The views expressed in this program are those of the speakers and do not necessarily reflect the views of USA Today or its affiliates.
Welcome back to Connecting America here on USA Today. I need a refill of my coffee, Dave. Alisyn, is your coffee brewing?
No, I could use the coffee's brewing, yeah, but hold on, I could use a refill also because there was a rush hour here in my kitchen, my global home quarters,
Thank you, Trish.
because my in-laws were here and my nephew and my son, and they've all just left to go to the U.S. Open, Dave. So now it's gotten a lot quieter in here, and I can have my own coffee.
One of the great sporting events
Awesome.
anywhere in the world every year in Queens, New York. It is just an extravaganza of food and drink, and oh yeah, a little tennis on the side. I mean, the tennis is great, but Alisyn, I would imagine it's your favorite sporting event. There is
Dave?
nothing like it.
Thank you for knowing me so well. Anything with food and drink is a good sporting event for me.
Oh.
So when it's like when I'm invited to something, I have to say to people, will there be nachos? I mean, that's what I generally consider a good sporting event.
Then maybe you don't know the Open, because the
The
Open is
cut-above
not
nachos.
a nacho
No.
event.
I know.
cut-above.
I mean, nachos are my baseline. The U.S. Open is fancier than that.
It is very highbrow. The $23 Grey Goose Honey Deuce, the best-selling sports cocktail in America.
And so many
It's a lot.
celebrity sightings there. But Alisyn, I have a question.
Yeah.
They all just left you and you don't get to go to the Open?
Well, I have something called a job here,
Uh-huh.
and number one, and number two, I have been to the Open, and I went with Serena. I saw Serena Williams play. Okay, and so I'm not that invested at the moment in the players, and I don't know them well enough. I'm sorry, Dave.
Just learned one, Carlos Alcaraz,
That's all
the
you need to know.
future greatest of all time. Look him up, got a fresh haircut. It's been all the buzz in the sports world. All right, good stuff. Let's talk about the headlines this morning. Vice President J.D. Vance, in an interview with USA Today White House correspondent Francesca Chambers, and Vance says he's, quote, ready to be president, thanking his on-the-job training for all of 200 days since inauguration. He also said President Trump does not have an enemies list, Jim.
He also defended the president's firing of Federal Reserve official Lisa Cook.
Yeah. Are we gonna listen? Do you want to listen to that?
We do. I hope so. Do we have that, guys?
I think a much more fundamental question. Let's just say, for the sake of argument, that Lisa Cook had done absolutely nothing wrong. Isn't it a little preposterous to say that the President of the United States, the elected President of the United States, working, of course, in concert with Congress, doesn't have the ability to make these determinations?
I mean, you can call it preposterous, but it's also called precedent. They intentionally keep the Federal Reserve independent, and that's how it has been. But he's trying to make the argument that the president was elected. He should be able to handpick his people.
Alisyn, every time I hear a soundbite like that, I can't help but wonder, and as I'm sure you do as well, how would Republicans react if a Democrat did this? Ask yourself that every time there's a controversial Trump decision. How would Republicans react if Biden, Obama, Clinton did this? And trust me, Fed independence was very, very high on the list of important things that Republicans used to stand for, because it is one of the most important things that separates our economy from those of communist and autocratic countries. And this is a scary precedent, and it is a very important decision. You may not be following it at home. You should be.
Well, we did
Dave,
do some fact checking. Sorry, Alisyn. The president can, in fact, fire somebody from the Federal
for cause,
Reserve.
which he doesn't have here.
Well, there are questions about alleged mortgage fraud.
In 2021, before she was on the Fed board, and also she claimed 2 houses as her main residence. Something, let me think about this long and hard. The president has done on countless occasions and has inflated and deflated the value of his buildings by hundreds of millions of dollars. This will be shot down, in my assumption, today, but we'll end up probably in the Supreme Court, and then who knows?
Yeah.
Yeah, so many of these
But
decisions
you know,
do.
one thing that I do want to say,
Yeah.
Dave, because you brought it up, separate and apart from this particular issue with this, Federal Reserve issue, I think that what you said was a very good mental exercise for everyone. And I try to do this as a journalist, but I think that it helps everybody. Imagine that very exercise. What would we think if fill in the blank? What would we think if Joe Biden did this? And similarly with Joe Biden, what would we think if President Trump did this? And I find that that is a really helpful mental exercise to just kind of center your own
Yeah.
values.
Yeah. And for example, when the president says 1 year in jail for someone who burns the American flag, no one here is supporting the burning of American flag, but the Supreme Court had already ruled on that. And Alisyn, you and I both are old enough to remember when we sat together on the curvy couch at Fox, and Republicans referred to Obama as a king because of some of the executive decisions he made. We've never seen anything like what we're seeing right now in terms of executive power.
All right, you can check out Francesca Chambers' full interview with the vice president on USA Today. All right, joining us now here at the table, Erica Jedniak
We didn't
of
get you
Boontown,
coffee.
New Jersey. You need some Java. Boonton, New Jersey. Yeah, thank you for joining us here this morning at the table here at the Sunrise Diner. We want to talk a little bit about an issue that's really important to you and your family. We're talking about something that people may not be aware of, but you're involved now in a class action lawsuit. It goes back to 2023, and it pertains here in New Jersey. I want to ask you if other states do this, but this is challenging the state's policy of drawing blood from newborns. You're claiming that this is done without parental consent, and that these blood spots that they use to check for diseases in newborns is actually held for many years. And I'm not sure people are even aware of that. First of all, Erica, what's the status with this legal case that's working through the courts?
Yes. So we actually got a decision just a few weeks ago. And long story short, the judge decided that we do not have possessory interest of our kids' blood. Very unfortunate. However, the judge also said that the case is not moot and we are able to continue. So we're evaluating our options of what comes next, but it's extremely disappointing, not just for myself, but for the thousands of parents around the state of New Jersey, that our child's blood is taken at birth, goes into a creepy state database, and then no one even knows about it until pretty recently. There's been a little bit of trickle of news, but extremely concerning. And the state is also considering moving forward with genome mapping of the blood without any parental consent.
So, Erica, help us understand what is so concerning about this, because the way the state says it is that they take this little blood drop from your baby's heel when they're born. Many of us parents kind of vaguely remember this in our baby haze, and they're checking for diseases, which sounds fine.
Yes.
So the fact that they have this little drop of your baby's blood, why does that concern you? What could happen with that drop of blood?
Sure. So we are not challenging the actual health screening that happens initially at birth, although I personally believe parents should be able to consent to that as well. But the issue is that the state has been keeping this blood, and prior to our lawsuit, for 23 years in a database. And the state has allowed law enforcement to access the database without a warrant, without judicial process. We're also concerned that the blood is going to be used for other things. Again, there's been public notice that the State Department of Health is interested in genome mapping the blood. In other states, we've seen that it's been sold for pharmaceutical research. So this is my son's genetic information. This is very unique to him. This is very personal. It should be private. It should not be up to the state government to do as what they wish without even letting parents know about it.
Are other states doing the same? Are they keeping these blood spots? Do you know?
Yeah, so all 50 states do the health screening, but it's really a mixed bag. So some states actually will just return the blood spots to parents after the 2-3 weeks after the health screening. That's pretty rational and I think even potentially normal. But our state is very extreme in that they were keeping it for 23 years. The state has voluntarily moved that to 2 years.
And they've started destroying some of the spots that they had held on to for more than 20 years.
Correct.
But not all have been destroyed yet.
Correct. And there's actually no laws or regulations around this. So we don't even know. There's no restrictions. Anything can really happen to this. There's no accountability.
So what happens next for you all in your lawsuit?
Yeah, so we are still chatting with our attorneys about how to handle this decision that just came down a couple weeks ago. It is a class action lawsuit, so it's myself, my husband, Pastor Lavalio out of Mercer County, and then obviously the class represents thousands of other parents. So we're really considering next steps, given that this was a pretty disappointing decision, and how we can move forward, because it's a Fourth Amendment case. It's a legal search and seizure. And this is genetic information. It's privacy. It's really at the end of the day.
And when this started, more than 20, when they started doing this, perhaps the technology wasn't quite as advanced in terms of what they could do with these spots. So perhaps wasn't as controversial at the time. Am I on base on that?
Absolutely correct. Yeah. I think medicine will advance quite a bit just in the next couple years. And not to mention just on, the lack of awareness from parents. It's crazy to me that the state has this creepy database, doesn't even tell parents. I mean, I was in labor for 26 hours, had an emergency C-section, declined it. And they just say, well, there's nothing you can do about it. Sorry. What am I going to do?
Yeah, I really appreciate Erica bringing this to everybody's attention, because I didn't know anything about this.
Neither did I.
And I thought that to her point, one of the interesting things is there is a case in New Jersey where the state police used the DNA from this drop of blood to charge the baby's father with a crime. So I think that we are at the point where awareness would be good about this.
Thanks for joining us. We appreciate you being here this morning.
Thank you for having me.
All right, after the break, a doctor will join us to talk about the government's new vaccine policy and also play a little fact versus fiction.
We'll be right back. Welcome back to Connecting America here from the Sunrise Diner in Rosehill Park, New Jersey. Dave's getting his quick
Greek
breakfast
yogurt on.
ready to go.
That looks delicious, guys. I'm really looking forward to our next segment because I think there is so much confusion right now for parents going back to school. Because, as we know, the CDC is speaking with one voice, the president is speaking with a different voice, Secretary Kennedy, RFK Jr. is speaking with a different voice. So parents are really left in a lurch about what they're supposed to do, particularly with vaccines in their kids.
Yeah, and you probably heard breaking late yesterday the change at the top of the CDC. The White House has now named Jim O'Neill the acting director of the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention. That's the day after firing Susan Menares. O'Neill was the deputy HHS secretary and is in on an interim basis there, being sworn in by the health secretary, Kennedy. The Trump administration official confirmed August 28th to USA Today after Menares was fired after a dispute with Secretary Kennedy over this whole issue of vaccinations and the policy. So we also know that Menares is fighting her firing and has gone to court just a month after the Senate confirmed her to that top spot.
Yeah, this is a big deal. What's happening right now, the president wants a lot of credit, as he should, for Operation Warp Speed, which developed mRNA vaccines in a record time, but yet he's allowing RFK to essentially do away with the very vaccines that save millions of lives. Yeah, that's not having your cake and eating it too. That is something else entirely. It's just remarkable.
Or doing away with allowing certain segments of our population to have access to those vaccines, right? They're still saying if you have a pre-existing condition, but not healthy younger children, it can be very confusing.
So every kid in America will be back in school by next week. More and more parents are opting out of vaccines. Here's the facts for you. 4.1% of kindergartners, about 138,000 kids had a vaccine exemption. There are a lot of conflicting information about vaccines, especially with the CDC and the American Academy of Pediatrics disagreeing. Let's bring in our guest, Dr. Pyle Coley, adjunct professor, Johns Hopkins and Duke University, to talk fact or fiction with vaccines. Doctor, thanks so much for being here this morning. What do parents need to know this morning?
It's a very confusing year this year because for the first time ever, the American Academy of Pediatrics and the CDC don't agree. So parents are really left to make the decision on their own, talk to their pediatrician and figure it all out for themselves. But here's the low and dirty on what parents need to know. The American Academy of Pediatrics is the more cautious recommendation, which is saying that essentially all kids 6 months to 23 months need to get that vaccine. And I would say as a doctor, I definitely agree with that recommendation because this is a group that we see ending up in the hospital and having complications from COVID. Now, if your child is a little bit older, that's where that individual decision making comes in. But certainly if your child has any other high risk conditions, whether it be asthma, immune problems, cancer, anything else, it is a good idea to get that vaccine. So if you're not sure, just make a call to that pediatrician.
If you have a healthy child and you want that vaccine, is it going, though, to be harder to get access to it, even if your doctor says you should get it?
It is for two reasons. Number one, doctors aren't probably going to be routinely offering them because the CDC is not telling us to routinely offer these to healthy children. Number two, because of that recommendation, both insurance coverage as well as manufacture of these vaccines may actually get affected because if it's not going to be a universal thing, and you guys just mentioned, as it is, there is a lot of vaccine fatigue. People are not getting these vaccines. They haven't been even when they were readily available. So now that these recommendations have changed, perhaps manufacturers will peel back how much they're making, and that could affect the supply as well. But I would say if you are a parent or a person that wants to get this vaccine that's not in the recommended group, go and talk to your doctor and see if you can go ahead and get it.
And doctor, look, obviously this is a controversial question. I know that there are a lot of news programs that won't even pose it because it's so controversial. However, many parents still fear this possible connection between vaccines and autism, it persists, even though, they've been presented with research by their pediatricians saying all the research doesn't show this link. Parents still feel as though maybe there's something missing. There's some bit of information missing. And this has been exacerbated because RFK Jr. believes this. And so what do you say to parents who come to you and say, I worry that if I vaccinate my young child, they may show signs of autism?
I would say that this is all a result of internet myth. And so where this comes from, Alisyn, is the fact that in 1998, there was a small study that came out that showed a possible link. But soon after the study came out, the lead author actually lost his medical license and the study was retracted because there were huge methodologic issues with it. Now, the other thing that happens is that you start to get vaccines around the same time, often that children can show signs of autism. So people erroneously made this connection, saying the vaccines are causing autism. But I would say time and time again, dozens of high quality studies with hundreds of thousands of children have shown absolutely no causal link. So this is where we really need to trust the science and not trust the misinformation that's on the internet. We need to think about what the data is showing us, not what people are saying. It's almost like the Salem witch hunts. Somebody yells witch, it doesn't mean that person is a witch. You actually have to prove that something is happening that's causing a problem. And that's not been proven with autism at all.
As you know, science has been politicized today, and I don't want to throw you in the middle of this, but the CDC director, who, as Jim mentioned, has been ousted, says her concern is that public health is being weaponized today. Are you concerned as a doctor?
I am concerned. I am deeply concerned because I will say, even as a physician, I've seen in the last few years, my own credibility with my patients has declined. People don't trust what I'm saying to them as a doctor. And I went to medical school and trained for over 17 years to learn the science so I could interpret it for my patients. And because of the recent happenings, there's been a lot of mistrust of the medical system. And I do appreciate the sentiment of trying to make public health organizations trustworthy again. But my question is, why did they lose trust in the first place? Because they've never really led us astray. They follow the science. And so for me, this whole recent phenomena has made it much harder for me to explain to my patients the things that benefit them. And it's not just vaccines. As a cardiologist, I often see even for cholesterol medications, there's hesitancy. Even for medications that prevent heart attacks and strokes, there's hesitancy. People just don't trust the medical system anymore. And I think that really has to change.
Before you go, very quickly, these changes at the top of the CDC, one story that I read likened it to firing all the generals during a war. For those at home who feel, oh, these are just bureaucrats, how important are these roles that have just been changed and now are vacancies except for the interim director of the CDC?
I mean, I would say that the captain of the ship is the most important person when you're fighting a war, right? As you said, the general is what tells the troops where to go and what to do. So you fire the general or you replace the general with someone who's new and doesn't understand the role, the troops are going to scatter. And I've already seen amongst myself and my colleagues, there's a lot of confusion and misunderstanding. We're left scratching our heads wondering, who should we offer vaccines to now? What should we do in terms of preventing respiratory illnesses now that we're headed into the winter season? So I think already we're seeing that we're losing the cohesiveness of the medical system because of all these changes at the top, because of the rapid turnover. And I really hope that it starts to stabilize a little bit, because I know I'm looking to these organizations to guide what I do for my patients every single day.
Dr. Coley, thanks for joining us here on Connecting America. Really appreciate it.
All right, after the break, a ride on Amtrak's new Acela train. You'll feel like you're on a Japanese bullet train, in a matter of speaking. We'll show you the new improvements next.
We are back on Connecting America here at the Sunrise Diner in Roosevelt Park, New Jersey. Big holiday weekend coming up. A lot of people already taking off for the holiday weekend and maybe extending it into beyond Monday for next week. A lot of people hitting the roads. They're also maybe getting on an airplane and the rails.
And if you're taking the Amtrak Acela, you'll find new and improved trains that were just unveiled this week. Amtrak says the new trains are faster. They're loaded with amenities like improved Wi-Fi outlets at every seat. Oh, fancy stuff. And joining us now is Zach Wichter, a travel reporter who writes the cruising altitude column for USA Today. Good morning to you, my friend. Tell us how improved these trains are.
Good morning. Thanks so much for having me. And yeah, I had a chance to ride the new Acela during a press preview earlier this week, and it was great. I mean, definitely a much more modern experience than the previous generation of the Acela. It's going to be a lot more similar to the kind of standard trains that you see in other parts of the world, which for US travelers is a real improvement.
How was the ride? How was the comfort level?
Yeah, it was great. I mean, it was very comfortable. The seats themselves I found to be a little firm, so maybe a little less padding initially than you might be used to on some other Amtrak trains. But, you know, they're brand new. I'm sure they're going to break in. And for the short rides that you get in the Northeast, it's very comfortable.
So Zach, explain how much faster this is going to be. How quickly will a passenger be able to go from, say, Boston to DC or New York to DC versus now?
So initially, there isn't going to be a huge change to the schedule. These new trains have a top speed that's about 10 miles per hour faster than the existing fleet of Acelas. But because of track conditions, a lot of the time they're not going to be able to hit that top speed, which is 160 miles an hour. So initially, the journey times are going to be pretty similar. But an Amtrak official told me that as more of these trains come into service and they get a little more experience seeing how they run on the Northeast Corridor, they're going to start making some schedule tweaks. And so ultimately, those journeys are going to get a little faster.
To you, Zach, what was the biggest improvement? And I would assume, did they increase prices?
So Amtrak uses a dynamic pricing model, which means that the prices are not always the same, and it's influenced by things like peak demand and that sort of stuff. And so you're still going to see Acela being considered Amtrak's premium product, which means you are essentially going to be paying a premium to ride on these trains. That said, because the trains have higher capacity, they said they'll be able to actually sell more discount Acela tickets than they do now during off-peak times. So that's going to be a real improvement because people will have easier, cheaper access to Acelas if they're a little flexible when they travel. And in terms of improvements that passengers are going to appreciate, I think kind of wide availability of power outlets is going to be a big one. You know, you're always looking to plug in those devices. More reliable onboard internet is also definitely a plus. And just in general, it's a much more updated train than what we're used to seeing in the Northeast. So I think people are going to be excited just to feel like they're riding in something more modern.
We're very food centric here, Zach. Just wondering whether the food car is the same, and that cheese plate or that quick microwave
hummus.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, the food car was great. They were giving us some samples when we were there. I don't know exactly how the menu on the new train is going to compare to the old one, but certainly you're still going to have food options available.
All right. Zach Wichter, thanks for joining us, coming along on our ride here at Connecting America.
All right, sounds great. Now Connecting America's fitness correspondent, Jenna Wolf, here to demonstrate a little workout you can do without even leaving the house, just the way Alisyn loves it.
Right.
What a great way to start my day, right? When it comes to the morning routine, if you know, you know. And if you don't, you should know. I have 5 non-negotiables. The first one, make my bed. Everyone says it. Set the tone. Make sure you gave yourself a little pride. Way to start the day off right. I also never snooze. You know, they say you snooze, you lose. I think it's because they don't want me to sleep too long. Let's go and brush our teeth. 2 minutes, right? Let's work on balance. Shoulders back, core tight. 1 minute. And 1 minute with each leg up. I work on balance everywhere, every day. But now right off the bat, I've started with a little bit of that good core work. Next up, we're going to go make some coffee. It's cute to make a little coffee in the morning. Into my coffee go the following 3 things. I put my collagen, I put my creatine, and I put my fiber. You do what works for you. These 3 for me into the coffee machine. And while that is brewing, I'm going to go ahead and stretch. This is number 4. Open my chest and go ahead and open my back. Elbows on the kitchen counter. Stick your bum all the way back and go ahead and dip yourself down. I'm here for 60 seconds. This feels so good. Again, you're going to want to lead up to it. These are things that work for me. You're going to find what works for you and then stick to it every day until it becomes a habit. Last but not least, put my face into the ice cold bucket for 30 seconds. Oh my gosh, here we go. Did you get all that? That's my morning routine. Set my mood, my mindset, and my momentum. Set yours and stick with it. Freeze it. Freeze it.
Doing that ice plunge.
I should give that a shot. I do not wake up very well, so thank you, Jenna, for that advice. I don't know if Alisyn's quite ready for that, though.
I'm not.
No.
First of all my makeup would come off, number 1.
Right, and mess up your hair. Hey, we're joined at the table by Janice Beauchamp. Thanks so much for being here. We understand you're a chaplain at Overlook Hospital. You're also at Drew University Theological Seminary. You must see a cross-section of people at the hospital who are going through some tough times.
Yes. From surgery, accidents, long-term illness. So I do. And that's what I love doing, is to help them have conversations, serve.
All right, so
Janice, we love. Yeah, sorry.
Go ahead, Alisyn.
Well, just that we love that, we get to meet so many different people from the diner and talk to you guys. So tell us what's your biggest concern right now in your life or in the world?
So, I am a gardener at Bethlehem Missionary Baptist Church. I come here every day with my 95-year-old gardener. And we use an opportunity. We talk about what's going on in the news and life. What's on our mind today? Because it's a children's garden. It is the children in Minneapolis that the shooting. That's what's on our mind. What do we do for our children to keep them safe? Produce love in the hearts of people, because our children are our future.
That must have really hit you hard to see in a place of worship these kids no longer feel safe. What do you think we should do to keep our kids safe?
Oh, I think we have to keep talking. I think we have to do the things to keep our kids safe, meaning let them be well informed. The feeling of security, but when you're talking about a school system, to have everyone have eyes on the children. And, there are things from a mental health, wellness, and just bad behavior perspective that we should talk about so our kids are aware, and that people know the signs so they can give a heads up before something so terrible like this happens.
How often do you find at the hospital that there are people going through mental health crises and they don't know where to turn, and you offer some advice to them?
Yeah, it is. I will say, when you have an illness, there's also the component of mental health, dealing with a new illness, family, friends, the support. It is often, and this is why I enjoy the chaplaincy, because you have resources that you can offer many people. It is a diverse group, and so you're able to pull in people from different cultures and denominations to help, because that's what we're here for.
So, Chaplain, my impression, but I want to know yours, is that we are doing better at talking about mental health. We are removing the stigma. We are able to say, I feel depressed, or I'm going through grief, or whatever somebody's experience is. Is that your experience on the ground, that people are getting better about talking about it openly?
Oh, absolutely. It's incorporated. Your course is incorporated in everything we do. Absolutely getting better. I'm a certified mental health expert. But you can't stop talking about it. That's what I will say. You have to talk about it when there's illness, when there is a major change. You have to educate our children, because they're better to handle situations for mental health or know the signs. And that's why the garden is really important. It's a place of safety, serenity, and it's what we love doing at Bethlehem Missionary Baptist Church.
Well, thanks for doing what you're doing, and thanks for being here with us on Connecting America. Janice, we appreciate it.
Thank you. Thank you for the opportunity.
Now go enjoy your breakfast.
Yes, little pancakes.
Awesome. Well, we're going to look at whether we're better prepared to handle a natural disaster like Hurricane Katrina when we come right back.
Good
That was
job.
great.
Thank
Thank
you.
you
I was
so
gonna say,
much.
was that okay?
Yes.
Great.
Perfect.
Such important stuff.
He's 95.
I should have told you
95.
to
Just
wait until
celebrated about a
I
month
came
ago.
over to unclip you.
Sorry about that. He just celebrated a month ago.
Oh, good.
Happy birthday, 95. Yeah. The only thing you have to be careful of is to start using legacy growing time on. You're going to bump up against the flex front of the cap, you know. Yeah, yeah. Yeah, that's sort of what I've done. And like I said, I was trying to for half the time I catch something out. Yeah. I think
Welcome back to Connecting America here from the Sunrise Diner here at Roosevelt Park. Alisyn joining us from home, keeping the coffee warm. Dave's chowing down on some scrambled eggs, hot sauce on them today.
I got some Beau Louisiana hot sauce, and it is fantastic.
Anything
Sounds
else?
delicious.
Trappies, thank you. Yeah.
Alisyn, are you a purist when it comes to the eggs? Do you put anything on it? Ketchup, hot sauce?
No, I'm not a purist. I like to mix things in. As you know, I love the Alisyn with spinach and feta, but I like some hot sauce. But I like that he's eating some Louisiana hot sauce because, you know, we are marking this anniversary of the tragedy of Katrina.
Yes, actually, 20 years this week since Katrina devastated New Orleans, lower Ninth Ward, one of the worst urban disasters in U.S. history. Parts of the city still rebuilding, trying to recover. We know that thousands of homes were destroyed. There were more than about 1,400 people who died. 15,000 people, mostly African American, lost their homes. They were displaced. Many of those people never came back. And that community is still trying to bring new business, attract new homeowners back into New Orleans. We've got AccuWeather Chief Meteorologist Jonathan Porter now joining us with more on what we know now in hindsight about what caused this massive disaster and what's been done since. Jonathan.
Good morning. Good to be with you on this somber occasion.
Thanks for being here. So, first of all, share with us your personal experience during Katrina.
Well, I was very early on in my AccuWeather career. I had been here for about a year at the time that Katrina struck. And I remember working in the days before the storm, working with our team members here, some of whom have 40, 45 years of experience in forecasting and communicating the weather. And we were so concerned. I remember as I was working a 3 a.m. Broadcast shift prior to Katrina's landfall, a couple of days before the storm made landfall. And I remember us being so concerned about the impacts in New Orleans. We issued one of the strongest worded forecasts ever from AccuWeather that 50 to 75% of the city of New Orleans would be underwater. We were the only ones that were saying that, and it caused lots of entities to other media were criticizing us. How could we say that? But we explained why we were so concerned with such an intense storm, and we knew there'd be so much pressure on the levees. We know that forecast saved thousands of lives in the New Orleans area. But of course, if local officials had taken that forecast and used it even more effectively, we know many more lives could have been saved. And that's the tragedy of that particular situation. But as you mentioned, it was an extremely intense storm that showed the true power of hurricanes, both in terms of the storm surge in Mississippi and all that flooding in New Orleans and the inland winds that went all the way, hurricane force winds well inland into Mississippi, a true tragedy.
Jonathan, I'm so glad that you reminded us of that and of your forecast, because we were just talking in the last hour about the importance of journalism during that storm, that journalists were sounding the alarm. And I put you as a meteorologist, obviously, into that category, not only sounding the alarm after it happened, which I remember Shepard Smith, Anderson Cooper on the ground, but you're saying beforehand, you were trying to sound the alarm and people just couldn't believe, I guess, the level of devastation. So what's changed since then? I mean, has New Orleans shored up the levees? Could this happen again?
Well, that's right, Alisyn, and that's a great point that journalists played such an important role in highlighting that tragedy. And of course, we in advance had highlighted those dangerous risks and saved so many lives with that forecast. I think the issue there was that it was the slowness of the local officials in order to take action based upon that forecast. They had not seen flooding like that before. We used every word we could to best describe it. We know we did everything we could to get that message out. In the years since, I think there's been more of a focus on what we've always been highlighting here at AccuWeather, which is the power of water, whether that's the storm surge or whether that's inland flooding, or in this case, the risk for a storm surge to put so much pressure on those levees that they broke and caused so much catastrophic flooding. So there's been more focus on that in the years since, but I'll highlight once again, it is incumbent, a forecast or a warning is only as good as the action that it inspires. And if you take a look at what happened in the Texas Hill Country just a few weeks ago, where there were advance warnings from the government and from AccuWeather, AccuWeather issued a flash flood warning near Hunt, Texas, 30 minutes in advance of the government and other sources, which had provided more than several hours of advance notice before the peak of the flooding. There were more actions that could have been taken by local officials and the people responsible at the camps. So it shows you that how important it is for that connection between the superior forecast and messaging and actions on the ground to save lives.
And in those 20 years since, how are we seeing the impacts of climate change continue to speed up and worsen in the region?
Yeah, we're seeing many impacts from climate change in a lot of different ways. Obviously, increased frequency of extreme weather events, increased magnitude of severe weather events. As it relates to hurricanes, warmer water on average across the world has resulted in an increased risk for storms to rapidly intensify, especially in the Gulf. And when that happens, the storm surge impacts, the wind impacts, and the rain impacts can be more substantial. So it increases the risk for even higher level impacts that can threaten lives even more. So that's why we advise everyone to stay tuned to the AccuWeather forecast very frequently. Remember, we're haven't even reached the peak of hurricane season. That statistically is on September 11th, and we think that there's going to be a very active back end of the hurricane season. So lots of time to pay close attention to the AccuWeather forecast here over the coming weeks and months.
And we should point out that radar image beside you is historical. That's not current.
That's correct. That is the radar review of Katrina making landfall back in 2005.
All right, Jonathan Porter, thanks so much for your insights and what we've learned since Hurricane Katrina.
All right, special guest back here at the table, our friend Trish, the waitress, always joining us here at the Sunrise Diner. I got a couple of questions for you, as always. Good morning. Are you headed out anywhere for the holiday weekend? Whether it's the plane, getting on a plane, getting in the car, getting on a train?
I'm doing a private catering event.
So you're working?
Absolutely.
Working, always working.
Yeah, well.
Are these cat ears?
Always.
Yes.
Oh, of course they are. Okay, my other question is the lottery.
Okay.
The Powerball is just shy of $1 billion, one of the biggest jackpots ever. Do you play or do you not? There's only two kinds of people when it comes to the lottery.
I play, but only because my husband thinks I'm luckier than he is, so he makes me touch the buttons for him.
Oh.
And then he can't hold the ticket either. We haven't won, but he's convinced I'm luckier.
But who's the winner if you're pushing the buttons for him?
Well, we will both be the winner.
Okay.
But we
You're
went
sure
to a
about
casino
that?
once, and I made us break even, so he says I'm the lucky one.
Have you ever seen the movie It Could Happen to You?
Of course.
It's about a cop and a waitress, and he offers the tip if he wins. He wins. So I guess I should offer you.
Have?
I think I would lose my. I'll give you $100,000
Okay.
if I win.
Shake.
Deal?
Deal.
So,
Right
Alisyn,
here.
let's see. Yesterday, he promised me a new car. He's getting a boat.
Alisyn just wants drinks.
Yeah, Alisyn just wants.
Which she already buys me.
Cocktail.
I mean, I don't. That would be no change. You know. I don't know. I said yeah, but he nixed that. So I don't know. I'm open to suggestion, guys. Feel free to write in. You can find us all on social media. What I should get from Dave when he wins $1 billion.
So, Trish, if you were to get that 100,000, would you still be here at the Sunrise Diner with us every morning?
Well,
That's
it's
the
my
question.
hometown diner. I would still come to eat if I didn't want to work anymore. But I mean, you would not be able to not work. I would want to maybe open a rescue.
Because you're passionate about animal rescue, and
Yes.
we know you have 29 cats.
$100,000 in cats is what I'm buying.
No, you're
If
buying
this goes
help for
through.
all those cats that need
I
it.
joke. Yes, health for all those cats. I have seen you eat here when you're
Oh,
off.
absolutely.
So she is not lying about that, Jim.
You want to check out our National Diner of the Day with us?
Absolutely. Where are we going?
We are going to.
Why don't you take it, Trish?
Yeah,
Oh, diner, truly unbelievable breakfast and lunch selection.
this is Cleveland, Ohio. Martha on the Fly is the name
Oh,
of it.
wow. Look at those pictures.
Look at that.
Yeah, some selections.
Was that
you
chocolate cream
don't
pie?
see
It looks like
at a
chocolate cream
typical
pie.
diner.
Ooh, stuffed potato.
Beef burrito
Ooh.
with smoked brisket. Sign me
Yeah, I
up
do
for
need
that.
glasses.
Oh yeah, this
some
is
sort
making
of.
me hungry.
Peanut butter?
That's dessert.
I'm
of
not
some
sure
sort.
what kind of pie that is there. All right, what else we got? Oh, there's the brisket burrito. If I get to Cleveland, Ohio, I think that's what I'm going to have first.
You got your carnitas breakfast burrito flyby. The list goes on. That stuff looks great. All right, field trip to Cleveland. You've been there, Dave, obviously, many times.
Many times. My whole family is from the Cleveland area of Shaker Heights. I love Cleveland, Ohio.
That
All
looks
right.
delicious. My blueberries here are not cutting it. I think I need a breakfast burrito that I'll be cooking up momentarily.
Something a little heavier for Alisyn. All right. It is the holiday weekend, so we got our question of the day. Alisyn, how are you feeling about traveling? Want to go by
Train.
plane?
I vote for train.
Alisyn votes for train. So does the rest of America this morning. Car, 29%, or just stay home and
You get the
enjoy
final vote, Trish. How would
long
you
weekend.
travel this weekend if you had to?
Maybe a scenic train.
A scenic train.
Bing,
She
bing, bing,
sealed
bing,
the
bing.
deal.
That wins.
You can still vote. Scan that QR code at the bottom of your screen. Snap it with your mobile phone, of course. You can cast your vote. And, you know, I would opt for train as well. And that's what I'm doing later this afternoon, going up to see some family in Connecticut.
Oh, lovely.
It's better than fighting traffic.
I'm a driver.
Absolutely.
I always drive everywhere.
Everywhere.
There's something about it that I like. I like to have control. I think that's what it is, Alisyn. I like to be able to get in, get out, get
But
off
yet
the
you
highway when I
complain
want.
about it, Dave. You complain about it. So I feel like you should try a train. You don't like traffic. You don't like gridlock. So try a train, particularly the new high-speed train in the Northeast. I think that might be to your liking.
If there was a train from where Alisyn and I both live to here at the Sunrise
diner.
Diner,
Convenient.
I would indeed take that. I would sign me up.
We need to build a train stop right into the diner. Just like come right up and shoot you to that table.
Yeah,
Well, it
for you
used to
guys,
be
it'd
across the
be
street.
a bunch of transfers to get here by train from where you are. Here's where you can find us on Connecting America. Hope you all have a great holiday weekend. We'll see you next week.